All right, excuse my mess. I'm still making a movie. My place is a shambles. There's like stands everywhere, lighting equipment, cameras. There's just crap everywhere. But I'll be getting my final shot tomorrow, hopefully, so then I'll be able to like get my apartment back together. So anyway, I have a couple of Yom Kippur stories that I wanted to share because I see people are putting up Yom Kippur posts, and I figured I would share this, and instead of typing it, I'm just going to make a quick video. First of all, it starts with this. You see this Jewish star, right? I wear it around my neck with my subway token. That's kind of my thing, right? And so keep that in mind. When I was a kid, I could care less about Yom Kippur or being Jewish or anything like that. Like, my family was, suddenly religious 3 times a year, like Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Passover. Suddenly we're Jews. And otherwise, there was no religion in our lives. We didn't do Sabbath or Friday nights or Saturday or any of that kind of stuff. Nothing. So I thought it was completely hypocritical that when Yom Kippur would roll around, my father would try to get me to not go to football practice. Like, I played football since I was 5 years old on like organized teams. And my father was always trying to get me to not go to practice on Yom Kippur because Yom Kippur falls during football season. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, football is my proper religion, okay? That's where I'm going. I am not staying home, and I am definitely not going to synagogue with you. That's like some kind of pipe dream from some other universe. Like, I am definitely not doing that. So anyway, I never went with him. I never listened to him, and I went to football practice every year. And that's the way it was. So I'm sure he was very disappointed. Matter of fact, I know he was very disappointed. But that's the way it was. And we didn't have the greatest relationship anyway until many, many years later when he got sick, and I got to take care of him until he died, and we made good with everything, and he forgave me for everything. And it actually made me feel like death is like a beautiful part of life. Like, it's just a part of life that can be quite beautiful, because it was the best part of my relationship with him and my mother, by the way. So I digress. Fast forward, and play football my whole life. I never pay attention to Yom Kippur. I'm always the only Jew. I mean, I don't know if there were any other people who were Jewish on my teams, because I didn't really, relate to people in that way. I don't know who was Jewish or Catholic or whatever. I had no idea. So anyway, fast forward, I am coaching or helping to coach a high school football team. And actually the high school that I went to, Rampo High School up in Spring Valley, New York. And I'm helping to coach these kids. And Yom Kippur rolls along the first year that I was coaching. And I'm out there teaching these kids how to catch punts. And so, for those who don't know about football, punts are these really high kicks that you have to catch. And they're pretty hard to catch when you're a kid, especially when you're still learning. And so anyway, the ball's bouncing off my chest, one after another after another. We're catching like hundreds of punts. And I'm just teaching them technique, and I'm going through all these drills where you catch with your right arm and you catch with your left arm, and just really trying to, teach them how to be secure with the ball when a punt comes, because, a lot of people drop them, and that's a disaster for your team. So anyway, we finish, we go into when it starts to get dark. I tell everybody they can go home, and I suddenly realize my gold chain is not on my neck. And I'm like, oh shit. So I kind of freak out, because the Jewish star that I was wearing around my neck at that time, I had taken it off of my father's neck when he died. My father died in the hospital at Columbia Presbyterian up at 168th Street. And when he passed away, he was wearing this chain. I took it off his neck, I put it on my neck, and it became my thing. And I added my subway token, and it became my thing, like I said. Anyway, it was probably the most meaningful possession of mine at that time. Like, I didn't really own anything. I'm not a very, I don't really, care about material things all that much. I love things like my camera. I love my guitar. I love my running shoes, but I'm not a materialistic kind of person. But this was very meaningful to me because it was an antique. It was my father's gold Jewish star, but it was also his father's. And so this was a real meaningful token around my neck next to my subway token. So anyway, I'm down on my hands and knees and I'm looking for this thing furiously. And one of the kids asked me what happened. I told him the story. And all of a sudden I look around and I see all these kids on their hands and knees trying to help me to find this thing. And by the way, Yom Kippur, I don't imagine meant anything to any of these kids, because every kid on his hands and knees was African American. So I don't think there were any other Jews out there that day. And they're just helping me look for this thing. And finally, after like 2 hours, it's like, I don't know, the earth just sucked this thing into itself. Like, it was just nowhere to be found. One of the kids drove up his car and turned the lights on. Like, we were out there for a couple of hours. It was gone. So I was devastated, just absolutely devastated. I go home, tell my wife, and she, she knows that I'm just broken over this, just absolutely devastated. And a couple months later, my birthday came, she replaced, no, it was actually Christmas, which was kind of ironic. Christmas comes and she replaced the Jewish star, and she found one that looked exactly the same. And it was very difficult to find something like that, like a Jewish star with a little Torah on it. Like, it was one of the greatest gifts that I've ever received. It was amazing. So I had my gold chain and my subway token. I was back in business. 10 years forward to the day, 10 years later, to the day, Yom Kippur, 10 years later, I'm doing a workshop of my first play, Broke Wide Open. I'm doing it at the Medicine Show Theater, and we're doing this, workshop, for those who don't know, is when you're developing your show, getting it ready for a commercial run or not-for-profits or whatever. You're just getting it prepared for this big final production. You're kind of working out ideas and stuff like that. But they're real actual performances too. It's a pretty big deal. You sell tickets, it's a real thing. So anyway, I'm at the Medicine Show Theater, and I was given the opportunity to not schedule a show on Yom Kippur that year. And so I was gathered with my team, and they were like, do you want to not schedule? It's Yom Kippur that night. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Schedule the show. I could care less about Yom Kippur. Who cares? So we scheduled the show. I was living up in Washington Heights at the time. So I got on the train at 158th Street and go down to 157th or whatever the stop is right there. I forget now. Go down to Columbus Circle. I walk from Columbus Circle all the way to 11th Avenue to the Medicine Show. And actually I go all the way to the park over there where there was a dog run, because every day before I did the show, I would stop at the dog run and watch these people play with their dogs, because I had just lost my dog and I was broken. I mean, that was worse for me than when I lost my mother and my father. Like, losing Stinson just broke a part of me. So anyway, I used to go watch the dogs. I digress again. I go to the Medicine Show to prepare for that performance that night. I'm sitting on a toilet, and all of a sudden I hear ching, and I look down, I see my gold chain, and I see my subway token between my feet, but I don't see the Jewish star. Now, anybody who knows anything about Yom Kippur knows you're not supposed to do anything on Yom Kippur if you're Jewish. You're supposed to, first of all, you have to fast, and second of all, you're not supposed to do anything. Like, real Jews, they don't even turn the lights on. Like, you don't do anything. You can't do anything. It's supposed to be a day of contemplating, of reflection, a day to, as they say, atone for any sins that you might have, done over the past year or whatever. Like, you're looking for forgiveness, and it's just a contemplative day of being still, which I never did, So anyway, I'm freaked out because I've lost this gold chain. I mean, not my gold chain, but I lost my Jewish star. So it was amazing too that I had the chain and the subway token, but just the Jewish star is missing. So I go back and I retrace my steps. I freak out. I leave the theater. I go back to the dog run. I check every step to the dog run. I look around the dog run. I start going back up to Whole Foods, which is at Columbus Circle, where I stopped before I walked down that night. Go, retrace every step going up that way, 11th Avenue, 10th Avenue, 9th Avenue, 8th Avenue, back to Columbus Circle. I go into Whole Foods. I ask if anybody perhaps handed it in. I went to their customer service people, it's gone. And now I'm running late. I got to run back to the Medicine Show because I got to get ready for this performance. My head is all messed up. I do the performance. It's fine. I'm not even wearing my gold chain. I'm wearing nothing, and I'm just broken. I go home. And I'm just like, I'm devastated, and it's not getting past me that this happened twice on Yom Kippur, the day that I ignored my whole life, where I disappointed my father all the time. And I'm thinking, when are you going to get the clue? don't do anything on Yom Kippur. Like, honor your father. Like, give him something, you know? So that night I made a commitment to myself to never work on Yom Kippur again unless I was offered a lot of money, because as an independent artist, you got to say yes to when you get a gig where you can make some money. So I made a commitment to try my best to not work on that day, but also I would fast every year, doing my best. Sorry, I'm getting text right now, which is kind of weird. And so I try to do my best every year. I fast. I honor my mother and my father now every year by trying not to do anything on this day. And I don't really have any big crazy ending to this story. It's not anything exciting, but it is kind of interesting that 2 Yom Kippurs in a row, 10 years apart, I lost a Jewish star. Gone. So this one is my third. It was replaced again. Yeah, you know, it makes me kind of emotional to even think about it, because I know that I really did disappoint my father all those years, but I was a kid, you know, whatever, we do those things. And a couple of years later, I got booked to do my play Broke Wide Open on Yom Kippur at St. John's University. And my friend Nadia, a poet that I know, was part of the booking of that show. And I said to her, can I possibly push the show up a little bit so that I get out of there before sundown, because Yom Kippur happens at sundown? And she said, no problem, don't worry about it. When I got there, of course, everything was running late. The show ran late, and I ran past sundown. And man, when I thought the train was going to crash when I was going home. I thought I was going to be robbed. I thought I was going to get struck by lightning. Like, I really thought something bad was going to happen to me that night. But I think because I made my best effort and I was conscious of it, and, you know, I took the gig because it was paying well and I needed the money and I wanted to perform, and I always want to share my stories because they mean so much to me. I think because I tried my best, everything was cool. And I'm certainly not a religious person at all, and I still could care less about Judaism or any of that kind of stuff. I don't care. You know, I actually think that organized religion is one of the things that is wrong with this earth. You know, it's like, it's right up there with racism. It's like everybody thinks theirs is the best, we're better than you. You know, Muslims are better than Jews, and Jews are better than Catholics, and Catholics are better than Protestants, and it's ridiculous, you know. I mean, I just believe in love and humanity and empathy and people, you know. And so, as much as I'm not religious, I am equal parts very spiritual. I'm a very spiritual person. I do believe in empathy, like I said, and the best of intentions. And so, anyway, that's my Yom Kippur story. I really have nothing profound to say about it other than that's what happened. And those are true stories. And that is kind of interesting that I lost my Jewish star, and I am Jewish, and I did find out that my biological mother was Jewish, so I am Jewish by birth. And I know a lot of people are always like, oh, you're definitely not Jewish, like no Jew is like you, whatever. You know, I was born to a Jewish woman, so I'm Jewish. And today I'm honoring my father, and also, you know, people light these yahrzeit candles to honor those who have died in their lives, and I would have way too many yahrzeit candles in my apartment right now. I'd burn this whole place down. So, but I honor everybody today. And that's the end of my story. I wish anybody who is observing, not celebrating, if you don't know, don't go up to any Jewish person and go, Happy Yom Kippur. It's not that. It's a very somber day. It's a meaningful day. It's a day to atone for your sins, to, you know, think about meaningful things. It's a quiet day. It's a day to be still. It's a day to fast, and it's a day to do nothing. So I wish anybody who's observing an easy fast and a meaningful day. And that's the end of my story. And thanks for listening. All right.